Hello and good evening, Chicago. Welcome on into another episode of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. Going to be another big lineup for us tonight. Got to kick things off with the rookie minicamp the Bears had this past weekend. Justin Fields was there. Did he impress? Well, let's go back and look at it. And, of course, the other kids were there. Did anybody else stand out? And can somebody go find Daz Newsome some poor waffles? That poor kid. We will recap all things Bears minicamp from this weekend. Also, this past week, the United Center finally opened for fans, but it was short-lived as both the Bulls and Blackhawks saw their regular seasons end with no postseason in sight for this summer. Let's talk about both the Hawks and the Bulls and see how close or far away are they really from competing in the near future. And then finally, the first pitch is a little less than an hour away for the return of John Lester and Kyle Schwarber to the north side of Chicago. This is going to be an emotional four-day series with the Washington Nationals. Let's reminisce about two very popular and very successful Cubs in their time here in Chicago. All that and more here on Chi-Town Weekly. Everybody buckle up, strap in, let's have some fun. And welcome on in once again, everybody, to another episode of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. As always, I am your host, Adam Karnick. Thank you so much for taking time out of your evening or day, whenever you may be listening this, to spend some time talking sports with me about the best sports city in the United States. Before we get too much further, of course, we have to do our due diligence and give recognition to our sponsor this week, the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get film to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you have been waiting for as an athlete. Follow them on Twitter at SoCal Warriors. Find them on Instagram at Southern California_Warriors, or look them up on Facebook by searching Southern California Warriors. And then, of course, IE Sports Radio is active on the major social platforms as well. Find us on Twitter by looking at IE Sports Radio. Instagram is at IE Sports Radio, and search Facebook for IE Sports Radio. You can also go to our website, www.iesportsradio.com, and find links to all the shows that we do there. You can also follow along with this show on Twitter. You can do that at IESRC. Or if you like, you can follow along with my personal Twitter page. That's at Adam_Karnick. So, gotta start things off tonight. Oh, and of course, if you are listening live here on the Spreaker app, go right on ahead, log on in. It's free, there's no cost, and hop on into the chat room. I see Taryn and Larry B are already there. Good evening, gentlemen. We can converse back and forth that way, or if you prefer to just sit back and listen to me talk, that's fine too. So, the Bears had their rookie minicamp this weekend, and as expected, all eyes were on first-round pick Justin Fields. And by all accounts, he did not disappoint. It's, of course, far, far, far too early to deviate from Coach Nagy's plan or General Manager Ryan Pace's plan of right now having Andy Dalton be the starter. But Justin Fields certainly looked, as much as you can look the part in a weekend mini camp without live defenses going at you in every single drill, he certainly looked the part. I was doing a lot of reading, following along with guys like Adam Hogue or Patrick Finley from the Sun-Times, guys like that, and I was also texting back and forth with Sean Hammond, who we've had on a show several times, talking Bears, and just confirming that, yes, indeed, Fields was looking the part. And in the first practice on Friday, not only did he only throw something like 3 incompletions the entire several-hour-long practice, at one point in one of the more live drills where they actually had a defense they were going up against, one of the receivers ran the wrong route against the coverage, and Justin went up to him and corrected him on what route to run and why they needed to be looking at that route in that situation. And just the command you're seeing from him right out of the gate. It's, on the one hand, you can't read too much into a rookie minicamp. I don't think anybody ever won or lost a job in a rookie minicamp, but he absolutely looked the part. The other thing that I saw several people talk about, and Sean mentioned it to me as well, was don't sleep on Daz Newsome. They weren't necessarily asking him to run a full route tree or anything like that in these practices, but absolutely there was a connection going on there between Justin Fields and Daz Newsome. So there's definitely already a bond forming a little bit there, a professional connection going on between a quarterback and one of his receivers. And that might be something that could potentially grow throughout this summer. Newsome is very raw, as we talked about last week, as a draftee wide receiver. There's a reason he slipped as far down as he did, but there's already some chemistry there working between those two guys. Tevin Jenkins, also, as much as you can with a lineman, he didn't look like the situation was too big for him playing at the left tackle position. Of course, he wasn't necessarily blocking anybody over the weekend. There was a lot of just, but getting his footwork right, getting his hand placement right. He's looking the part. Another guy that I saw talked about a bit was Larry Borum, who some of the guys are already saying might push Germain Ifedi to start at right tackle sooner as opposed to later. I had thought when the Bears drafted Borum that he was going to be a little bit more of a project before you'd actually see any significant playing time from him. But it sounds like the offensive line coach, Juan Castillo, also pointed out that Borum is going to have to put on a little bit of weight. He lost about 30 pounds between the end of the football season and draft season, doing his pro days and things like that. He shed about 30 pounds. Juan Castillo commented that he'll probably need to put about 10 of those back on as muscle so he can get a little bit stronger and bigger. But Borum might be somebody that pushes for playing time a little bit sooner than maybe we thought. Larry comments in the chat that the Bears are going to be scary. Yeah, I hesitate to put a number on wins in May. Like when the schedule got released last week, and I think there's way too much hype that is put into the actual schedule release. All it is the order of the games. We already knew the 17 games that the Bears and everybody else in the NFL was going to play. You know, you knew 6 of them were going to be divisional, and then you knew who the other 11 opponents were all going to be. This is just simply the order of the but I did find it interesting that with the schedule release, you know, so I think it's a little ridiculous when people start, oh, well, you know, now that we know the order of the games, oh, you know, the Bears they're going to win 10, 11, 12 games. It's too early for that kind of talk. And don't forget, this is a team that went 500, you know, this past season. They went 8-8. They did make it into the playoffs, primarily because there was an extra playoff spot added to them, and nobody else in the NFC wanted it. So the Bears were there to take it. But I think, you know, right now, this is still probably anywhere between 7 to 10 win team. So much of the actual schedule, and people have said, oh, you know, it's one of the toughest strength of schedules. Well, that's based on last year's numbers. You know, the NFL is such a week-to-week league. We'll see as we get closer to the season just how tough some of these look. But initial blush, yeah, this is a 7 to 10 win team, hopefully. The defense has regressed in some ways, but hopefully Fields takes over sooner rather than later for Andy Dalton. Coach Nagy was very adamant this weekend, and Nagy, by the way, was not present at the entire minicamp. He was there yesterday, but he was not there for the Friday and Saturday sessions. He did not have COVID, but he was close contact with a family member that contracted COVID, so he was in self-isolation for the first couple of days. So he was finally there in person yesterday. And he reiterated that when they have their organized team activities starting June 1st, Dalton will be the guy running with the first team at first. But it sounds like it's only a matter of time before Fields comes into play and takes over this spot. I talked about it last week. Fields is just more polished than a lot of your typical NFL rookie quarterbacks, and that was something that came away from this weekend from reading and talking with people, that he did not look like the moment was too big. Now again, it was just one mini camp. We'll see what happens in the OTAs, and then we'll see what happens in training camp itself and once he gets in the preseason. But an early initial reaction is that the moment was not too big for him. He's got all the tools. Hopefully it happens soon for him. I liked some of the other things that were happening. They had a lot of the rookies got opportunities to speak to the media, and you saw some of their personalities come out in some of the questions that they asked and answered and how they responded. Tevin Jenkins, it was great. He commented he'd never been to Chicago before, and as soon as they landed, he on the commute to practice, he just found himself just staring up at all the skyscrapers. He'd never seen a skyscraper before. I can relate to that. I'm not from Chicago originally. I visited Chicago as a kid growing up, and then I went to college in Chicago. But I found myself, even in my 3rd, 4th, 5th years of college, and even now today, walking downtown, I will still from time to time just catch myself just staring up at the buildings and just going, wow, these are huge. So I lovingly referred to it as country bumpkin syndrome when I was in college. So I can completely relate to what Tevin Jenkins just went through this weekend. And then Daz Newsome over the weekend in his final bit with the press on Sunday, he was requiring, before he'd answer any reporters' questions, he was asking them he was telling them, you have to give me a good restaurant recommendation. He was disappointed, shocked, and appalled to find out that Waffle House is not in the Chicagoland area. That was his late night staple in college. So he's on the hunt for good fried chicken and all those wonderful late night foods. So if you have any, please be sure to send them Daz Newsome's way. You can find him on Twitter and send him your favorite spots. I would highly recommend Gene and Jude's out in the River Forest area, and of course all the other great food spots all throughout Chicago. But it was just fun to get to know some of these guys a little bit. And, of course, see the limited highlights that the team puts up. Of course, they're insanely protective of their film, which doesn't make any sense at all. But that's a discussion for another time. And then seeing the limited pictures and videos that the media were able to put up from it. It's all very encouraging. Again, Justin Fields isn't going to win or lose. He's not going to win the starting quarterback job over a 3-day minicamp in the middle of May, and Andy Dalton isn't going to lose the starting quarterback job over a rookie minicamp in the middle of May. But it's encouraging to see that for the rookies and Fields especially, it didn't look like the moment was too big for any of them, that they were worth being taken where they were selected. All right, we are going to take our first quick break, and then when we come back, the United Center was finally able to have fans in the building for the first time since the pandemic officially broke and shutdown happened way back in March of 2020. It wasn't for very long, though. We will discuss the two major inhabitants of the United Center and see what the future might hold for both of them. That's coming up next here on Chi-Town Weekly on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with lists of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the college, and everything in between. This is me, your boy Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world, sports themselves, and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for The Defining Moment with me, your boy Larry B, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
Soccer Scoreboard Show with your host, Gabriel Montoya. This is the show for soccer, football fans, or whatever you call the beautiful game. Every week, I tackle the latest and greatest news from around the soccer world. From the English Premier League, to the World Cup, to MLS, Liga MX, and more. You can listen to the Soccer Scoreboard Show and our lineup of fantastic guests every Friday at noon here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS. The SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey guys, it's Blake Henley, better known as H-Town Blake to some of you. Happy to announce that Bases Loaded is back in full force. We'll be bringing that high heat every Tuesday night here on IE Sports Radio. So come home, get ready, dig into that batter's box, and see if you can chase that high heat, baby. So we'll be coming to you live with all the stats, all the rundowns, all the division rivalries, and every team that's going to make the playoff push to get to that one and only October and get to the pinnacle of what baseball is, to hoist that Commissioner's Trophy when it's all said and done.
Wrestling fans in the podcast world, you are in the right place to listen to the right show, the premier show in the professional wrestling podcasting world. This is Ring Rambling Radio, and you're listening to one of the co-hosts. I am Martin Sandoval, a.k.a. the SoCal Saint, along with my two co-hosts, the lovely Felicia and my boy Matt. Yes, every Saturday or every other Saturday morning, you can listen to us, the premier wrestling team, giving you the premier wrestling news, rumors, updates, event discussions, everything that has to do with professional wrestling. You're in the right place. IE Sports Radio presents Ring Rambling Radio. Don't miss it, because it's just too sweet.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. So while we were at break there was a little bit of breaking news that just came through ESPN. The Chicago White Sox, we talked about it last week at large. They have been bitten by the injury bug. Well, they may be bitten a little bit again. You may have seen over the weekend that all-star and reigning American League MVP Jose Abreu was in a nasty, nasty collision with Kansas City Royal Hunter Dozier over the weekend. That happened in the Friday game against the Royals, where Dozier hit an infield pop fly, and while Abreu was racing in from first to try and catch the ball, he and Dozier collided, and Abreu got the brunt end of it. He wound up missing Saturday's game as a result. He came in and played yesterday and wound up scoring the game-winning run on a crazy walk-off on a wild pitch, scoring from third on a close play. He was called safe at the plate. Replay couldn't convincingly tell the umpires otherwise, so they went with it. Well, Abreu is going to miss the series this week in Minnesota. While scoring yesterday, Abreu tweaked his ankle, and while the x-rays were negative, and I'm just reading through the brief here, x-rays were negative on Abreu's ankle. However, an MRI did show inflammation. So they are going to sit Jose Abreu for the entire series against the Twins. They play, first pitch here is at about 15 minutes in Minnesota. They're in Minnesota both tonight, tomorrow, and then a day game on Wednesday. Abreu is expected to play against the Yankees this weekend. They have an off day Thursday, and then a 3-game set in the Bronx for this weekend. So hopefully Abreu just misses the next 3 games. But the last thing the Sox need is to lose any more of their star talent to injury. So this just came through in the last little bit. Jose Abreu will not play tonight or at all against Minnesota this week. Hopefully it's just precaution, and he'll be good to go for the weekend series against the Yankees. I also wanted to react real quickly before we move on. I wanted to react to something Taryn commented in the chat, going back and forth a little bit with Larry. And Taryn commented that the NFC goes through Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Sad to say. I'm not 100% convinced on that, and we will get far more into this as we get much closer to the NFL season. I know the Bucs are obviously the hot team because they're the defending champions, and they are returning all 22 of their starters, which is very rare in this day and age in the NFL. But more often than not, that can bite you. And on a team that is as veteran-laden as the Bucs are, I would not be surprised if they take a little bit of a step backward. That they should still be good enough to take that division. That NFC South division is not very good, so they'll certainly be one of the teams in the playoffs, barring a catastrophe. But I look at the NFC West right now as kind of the premier teams of the NFL, with Seattle and Los Angeles getting Matthew Stafford. I think the Rams could be really, really good coming straight out of the gate. The Bears, of course, will get a great peek at them with the first game of the season as they open up on Sunday night in Los Angeles against those Rams. I think they could be really good, and I wouldn't sleep on Arizona or San Francisco right now either. I think that that's going to be the division in the NFC right now, at least as we sit here in mid-May, May 17th. That's who I look at in the NFC. The Bucs will certainly be one of the teams, but that's down the road a little bit more. Of course, if you want to know more about those Los Angeles Rams and those NFC West teams, be sure to listen to Taryn Rodriguez as he talks about all things Southern California sports. He does that on Friday evenings here on IE Sports Radio. So if you want to know more about that division, be sure to check him out. You can also check out Taryn actually immediately right after our show tonight, as he will be doing Set Point, talking about volleyball. So, stick around for that. All right. I talked about it right before the break. The Blackhawks and the Bulls, they were finally able to have fans in the stands right at the end of the season, but then both of them had letdowns to end their season, and they are done. No postseason hockey or postseason basketball in Chicago from the Blackhawks or the Bulls at United Center this season. Can't say I'm shocked, but I could say I'm disappointed with one of the two teams, and we'll get to that. We'll start with the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks, of course, just got off to such a hot start where they were right there in the thick of it in early March, where you were looking at that schedule and that record and you're thinking, oh my gosh, they're right there in it. They're in third place in their division. They could be making headway, getting ready to make a run here as the calendar was finishing up February and getting ready to turn into March. And then it turned to March and the schedule got significantly tougher. They played they played Columbus and Detroit a lot in January and February, two of the lesser teams in the Central Division. That allowed the Blackhawks to kind of stack some wins together pretty handily on. And then things just kind of spiraled out of control from there. They started playing Carolina and Florida and even Dallas to a lesser extent in Tampa Bay, and struggled. They had 6 straight losses in the middle of March that didn't help things. Did rebound from that by getting a few more wins in a row, six in a row to try to, or excuse me, not 6 in a row. I'm sorry, a few more in a row to try to get back into it, but it was tough. It was a tough stretch. It was a very tough stretch for the Hawks all around. So, what do we take away from this season? Well, it's disappointing that they didn't make it again. You hoped that, while certainly they weren't going to contend for the top of the Central Division standings by any means, you knew that Tampa and Carolina were going to be the cream of the crop from this division. You thought that maybe they might be able to hold on to that 4 spot just a little bit, but it was not to be. And they were dealing with so many injuries. Of course, Jonathan Taves missed the entire season. Brent Seabrook missed the entire season and ultimately retired partway through the year. Kirby Doc missed a huge chunk of time before coming back. It was obviously not the easiest of seasons. But there were some bright spots. You got to see guys like P.U. Suter and Brandon Hagel have some immediate dividends and pay off some results. Patrick Kane is still at the top of his game. He wound up leading the Blackhawks in points with 66 in 56 games. That's showing you he still has it. He's still one of the NHL's better players. That's for Kane, that equates to nearly a 100-point season. If this was a normal 82-game season, that would be on pace for almost 97 points on the season. Alex DeBrincat came out huge for the Blackhawks. He put up 32 goals in just 52 games this season. That, you throw that out over a regular season, that's a 50-goal scorer. That's impressive. That's something the Hawks haven't had for some time, somebody that could put up 50 in a season. So you're seeing some good things and getting some help on the D-line, guys like Connor Murphy and some of these blue liners, getting them some time in there. And in the goal crease, Kevin Lankinen obviously faded a bit down the stretch, as the whole team did, once again, as they started playing against some tougher talent. But Lankinen showed that he can be a night-in, night-out goalie for you in the NHL, and it won't be too big for him. He saved nearly 91% of the shots that he faced. He had a goals against average of just over 3.01 in 37 starts. 17 wins for him on the season. Good production, good numbers. So what do the Hawks need to do for this offseason? Well, you still need to help the blue line. You still need to help the defense. You've got to get better there. Hopefully, obviously you'll have Kirby Dach for an entire season. Hopefully that can help. Hopefully, Jonathan Toews comes back, and that right there would help the defense out as well. But those are both centermen. Those are both forwards. You need to get some help on the blue line. They might look to free agency for that. They might be able to call up somebody else from their farm system, or perhaps just seeing some of these young guys that got an extended taste during this unique and truncated and very specific NHL season. Maybe they're able to take some next steps and grow and continue to blossom as a team. But overall, I'd say it was a positive season for the Blackhawks. Obviously disappointing in that they couldn't hang on to that playoff spot. But had you told me after the Kirby Dach and Jonathan Toews news all came down that the Blackhawks would be halfway through the season and you'd be able to talk about them being in postseason contention, I'm not sure I would have believed you. So overall, great stuff from the Blackhawks. Hopefully they're able to build and expand on it and go from there. Then we go to the other team at United Center. We have to talk about the Bulls. 31-41 overall. Obviously, there's a marked improvement there just from they looked professional. The way they performed on the court. Yes, they lost games. Yes, they ultimately missed out even in an expanded playoff field where 10 teams in the East made it. You're having the play-in games going on right now, but between the 7 through 10 seeds are doing their quick little play-in tournaments. The Bulls weren't able to compete for that. That's disappointing. I would have liked to have seen, especially after they made the big trades right at the deadline, including getting Nikola Vucevic. You were hoping that, oh man, this team, all right, obviously, yes, they're not going to be winning the NBA Finals this season, but hey, maybe they can get into the playoff. Maybe they can avoid the play-in altogether and get into the playoffs themselves. And then they actually just only won 12 games after the trade deadline. So I'm a little disappointed in the Bulls as a whole, on the whole, from them. At the same time, they looked professional, and that is such a stark contrast from what was going on under the prior regime. You determined this year that Zach LaVine is somebody that you want to keep around, you want to build around, you want to keep him in the fold there at shooting guard. You need to figure out how to extend him and how to keep him. You may have something there in Patrick Williams that he got some extended time after they'd already been eliminated from the postseason, and he started to show some things. It was a long season for him. It was a long season for the rookie. So continue his development. The Bulls need to find a point guard. That's something that became more and more obvious as the season went along for the Bulls. They've got to find their point guard. They've got to find their quarterback, the guy who can set up the offense, get the offense working, and make sure that the ball handlers, that the scorers, the playmakers are able to do what they need to do. They tried Kobe White at that. Kobe White, give him a lot of credit for being willing to try that role. Ultimately, it was not for him. He is better as a scorer, as a get me the ball and let me do my thing. And he was able to do that some with Zach LaVine out extended time with COVID, and you saw that that's probably better for him in that role. Lauri Markkanen has said he's almost certainly going to test the free agent waters here as he's getting into restricted free agency. I would not be shocked at all to see Lauri Markkanen wearing another team's colors next season. And I'm not sure that that's the worst thing for the Bulls as they go moving forward. But still disappointed that in an expanded playoff field, the Bulls couldn't figure out, were not able to get one of those top 10 spots in the East. I do want to give a congratulations real quick. Tony Kukoc was selected to the Basketball Hall of Fame class of 2021. Kukoc, of course, one of the stars of the late 90s Bulls run, as he was part of the second three-peat as a great man off the bench. So congratulations to Tony Kukoc getting into the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame class of 2021. All right, we are going to take one more quick break, and then coming out of that, we are going to talk some nostalgia. There's no crying in baseball, but tonight I think it might be okay if you're on the north side. We'll talk about that next here on Chi-Town Weekly on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys spending time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Thank you once again for sticking around and listening to Chicago sports with me tonight as we go around, bouncing all around the city tonight. One more quick shout out to our sponsor this week, the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you have been waiting for as an athlete. Follow them on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, Instagram at Southern California_Warriors, or find them on Facebook by searching Southern California Warriors. So tonight is a rough night on the north side as the Cubs take on the Washington Nationals in the first of a 4-game series this week. Because as I speak, as we're sitting here right now, Kyle Schwarber is at the plate hitting for the Washington Nationals back in the town and the city and the stadium where he loved to play and the fans loved to watch him play. The Cubs, of course, famously shed some salary, moved on from some players who were very integral to their championship-winning team back in 2016. Schwarber was one of those, and I see he just grounded out to first to end the first inning. And it involved getting rid of some very popular players. Schwarber was one. I imagine, of course, I didn't have the game on as I'm doing this, so I imagine as Schwarber stepped up to the plate, he got a very warm, very large, very long, welcoming ovation from the Wrigley Field faithful. And he'll be running out now to play left field. And I imagine the bleacher bums out there in left field will absolutely make him feel welcome again. Schwarber did not necessarily want to leave Chicago. The Cubs actually decided, if you remember, the Cubs decided not to offer him a tender. They had him under team control, and they decided that they weren't going to make him an offer, which allowed him to then hit free agency. And he actually is getting more money from the Nationals this year than he would have gotten from the Cubs under arbitration this year, which is odd, an unusual thing. So in Wrigley Field, of course, the tradition is if an opposing team hits a home run, you throw the ball back. I wonder if that rule might get overlooked on this one occasion if Schwarber parks one to somewhere in the bleachers and over the course of this 4-game series. And then the other big one, the starting pitcher tonight for the Washington Nationals is one John Lester. Lester was, of course, the free agent acquisition for the Cubs. He spent 6 years with the Cubs from 2015 to 2020. And that signing legitimized the Cubs as being serious about rebuilding. Lester was, of course, the ace of the staff, but he was the leader in the clubhouse. And I already did a lot of this when he officially moved on from the team, when the team officially decided to move on from him. But to see him back, I know is going to be emotional for him. It's going to be emotional for the fans. I am absolutely positive that as he's stepping out there onto the mound right now, he's getting the farewell that he didn't get last year in his final start playing in the empty stadiums that everybody played in last year. I can almost guarantee that the fans at Wrigley are giving him the send-off he never got while simultaneously welcoming him back, if only for a night, and even if it's with the other team's colors on. I'm sure they're also going to be thanking him quite a bit. As part of Lester's farewell from the city was he famously put out an ad and let everybody know that for one weekend the beer was on him in the city. That final tab came to $47,000 worth of Miller Lite that Chicagoans drank all on John Lester's dime. I'm sure they will be very appreciative of that too, and they'll let him know. I saw that earlier tonight, Anthony Rizzo actually wore a John Lester jersey on his way into the stadium tonight. I'm sure that the two of them are going to get together after this game is over tonight. David Ross, of course. That's one of the facets, as I get ready to talk about David Ross, that's one of the amazing facets of this team. I realized this on my way in for doing the show tonight, that David Ross might not be the manager of the Cubs right now had John Lester not signed with the Cubs to pitch for them back in 2015. Lester signed first, and then they went to David Ross, who had already kind of been Lester's personal catcher, to see if Ross would be willing to come along as well. And ultimately he was, and of course became a fan and a team favorite. And now he's managing the Cubs. I wonder what David Ross might be doing had John Lester signed with a team other than the Chicago Cubs way back in 2015. It's an interesting conversation to be had anyway. So it's going to be a very emotional series for the Cubs this week, hosting the Nationals. They get John Lester tonight, and they get Kyle Schwarber all week out in left field. Will be a lot of fun for the fans and for those guys. Good to have them back, even if only for a few days. All right, that is our show for this week. We will be back at it, of course, again next week to talk about all things sports in the best sports city in the U.S. in my very biased opinion. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to Southern California Warriors for sponsoring us this week. Thank you to Larry and Taryn for hanging out in the chat room with me tonight. Thank you guys. Taryn, of course, is doing Set Point right after I'm off the air tonight, so be sure to stick around and listen to Taryn talk about all things volleyball, wrapping up the NCAA season, and maybe doing an Olympic preview a little bit. A guy can hope. That's my favorite thing, Taryn, for volleyball. The Olympics are my favorite. We've talked about this before, so I'm anxious for that. Larry, thank you for everything you do with IE Sports, man. This place would not run without you, so thank you, Larry, for sticking around. And thank you, the listener, for continuing to come back and hang out with me every week as we talk sports. It really means a lot. I really appreciate it. This is so much fun to do. I'm glad we get to do this, whether this is informative, educational, something to have on the background, or just something to have some fun with, whatever it is to you. I'm glad that I'm here to provide you with that. Until next week, everybody stay safe, stay well, stay healthy. We'll catch you on the flip side. Have a good week.